I didn't have to worry about. Should have got a try. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's two
Guys,
weeks
we're ready to go.
over.
Welcome, councillors, members of the public and staff. I declare the meeting open at 6:45. Everyone at this meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual, use appropriate language and tone, do not use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws apply to addresses in public forum. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette. I remind all present that the video recording is an official record of council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. So we'll begin with an acknowledgement of country. Bayside Council acknowledges the traditional custodians, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and pays respects to elders past, present and emerging. The people of the Eora Nation, their spirit and ancestors will remain with our waterways and the land, our Mother Earth. We've received an apology from Councillor Bill Saravanovsky. Are there any further apologies or councillors seeking a leave of absence? Moved. Seconded. Councillor Muscat. Vote on the apologies. All in favour? Aye. Carried. Disclosures of interest. Do any councillors wish to make any disclosures of interest?
Yes, Chair, in relation to CPE 22.023, the draft planning proposal or minimum lot sizes, I declare a pecuniary interest as I have a residential property that is impacted, so I'll be leaving the chamber.
Thank you. Any other councillors wishing to... Councillor Muscat?
Yes, I have a non-pecuniary interest in report CPE 22.024, the City of Botany Bay 94A Development Contribution Plan to Botany Aquatic Centre, as I am a president of the swimming club that's there, but I will stay in the room.
Thank you. And did you have a pecuniary interest in relation to item CPE 22.023?
That's the one with having a residential. Yes, so I have a pecuniary interest in the draft planning proposal for minimum lot sizes for dual occupancies and semi-detached dwellings, as I have a residence in Bayside.
And you have seeking a special disclosure.
And I'm seeking a special disclosure.
Thank you. Councillor Barlow?
Well, I've got a non-pecuniary interest in, is it CP 023?
That would be pecuniary interest.
What?
It's a pecuniary interest, yep.
Non-pecuniary?
No, pecuniary with a special dispensation.
Oh, it's pecuniary interest with a special dispensation, and I'll be staying in the chamber.
Thank you. Councillor Douglas?
I similarly have a pecuniary interest in CPE 22.023 and am seeking a special dispensation as I have a property in Bayside which will be affected by the minimum lot sizes, dual occupancy and semi-detached dwellings. I also have a significant non-pecuniary interest in CPE 22.025 draft community and verge gardens policy, as I am both a member of a community garden and I have a verge garden. So I will be leaving the chamber for both those items.
Thank you. I have a pecuniary interest in CPE 22.023 draft planning proposal, minimum lot sizes for dual occupancies and semi-detached dwellings, as I have a primary residence that will be affected, but I have a special disclosure. Thank you. Do I have a mover? Councillor Barlow, seconded. Councillor Muscat. All in favour? Aye. minutes of the previous meetings. Can I ask two councillors who are present at the meeting to move and second the confirmation of minutes?
Could I just make a note that it says that I was present via audio-visual link, but also an apology. So that needs to be fixed. I was an apology.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Muscat. All those in favour? We won't be moving any items by exception, and as there is reports, so we begin with report CPE 22.022, Draft Bayside Comprehensive Development Control Plan 2022. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the report? Councillor Curry, seconded Councillor Barlow. Can I just ask for a quick summary of this report before we go to questions?
Yes, certainly, Chair. So this report is about a comprehensive DCP, Development Control Plan, that will apply to all of Bayside. Council went through the exercise of putting in place a local environmental plan that covers the whole LGA, that consolidated the previous plans. This is a similar exercise at Development Control Plan level, which is the level below in terms of statutory weight. So essentially the exercise is to bring together and harmonise the development control plans that are applied to the two former council areas into a single document, and to bring them into the same format, and to harmonise and consolidate the controls that are in the plan as well. So there are no significant policy changes in this exercise. The potential of properties not being increased or decreased significantly. There is some fine tuning where
Is there any discussion, councillors?
Is it going to be, so is it going to be advertised on where in the, or your say or wherever, or?
yes, through your chair, the exhibition period will have a couple of different components to it. So it will be on the Have Your Say platform through our website. We will be writing to all property owners and residents, and there will be an email inbox and telephone number and the usual things that we do.
Thank you. I know there are a lot of documents with that will be going on public exhibition, and it took a long time to harmonise. So congratulations to the staff for going through that process. Just wanting to know, will there be a more of a plain English executive summary that accompanies the exhibition period for those who may struggle?
Yes, there will be. Yeah, so we will have some summaries. You're right, the document is quite lengthy. It's still in the order of 600 pages, so we will have some explanatory material there. And as we did for the council's presentations, we will draw attention to the things that are being updated or that are new because of legislation change and the like, and yeah, to provide some explanation.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Would the mover like to exercise her right of reply? Okay, we'll now vote in favour of this item. All those in favour of the motion say yes. Yes, aye. All those against say against. I declare the officer's recommendation carried. So we'll move on to the next item, CPE 22.023, Draft Planning Proposal Minimum Lot Sizes for Dual Occupancies and Semi-Detached Dwellings. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Muscat. So there's an officer's recommendation before us. Is there any further discussion? Sorry, I'll ask for a for an officer's summary of the report first.
Thanks, Chair. So yeah, this is the proposal here is to amend Council's local environmental plan in respect of the minimum lot sizes that are required for dual occupancies and semi-detached dwellings, and also the width of the lots on which that type of development can take place. There's a couple of reasons for doing it. One is in response to a state government policy that allows dual occupancy across the state under certain circumstances. Council's only ability to influence the outcomes under that policy is if we have a minimum lot size in place, and we currently don't. So it defaults to quite a small lot size under the state policy, and that's not necessarily going to give us the outcomes that we want in Bayside in terms of being consistent with the character of our area. So that's the main reason for going through this exercise, to get that a lot size in place that's more in keeping with Bayside's character. The other reason is that we have a local housing strategy that Council's committed to, and as part of that, we undertook to look at all forms of medium density, including these ones, to see what can be done to encourage them and also get outcomes that fit in with Bayside's character. So that's the other reason for doing it. So the proposal here is to introduce, there's actually two sizes. For the majority of the LGA, it's 600 square metres as the minimum. For corner lots or lots that have dual frontage, the lot width is reduced to 12 metres because they're a little bit easier to develop. For some parts of the LGA, particularly on the eastern side, where the existing subdivision pattern is smaller lots, in areas like the area we're in now, we're proposing a 500 square metre minimum instead of 600. So in summary, that's what it's about. This one's also at the stage for Council to consider before it goes on public exhibition. So it would go on exhibition and then come back to Council to consider the submissions and make a final. Happy to
Thank
take any
you.
questions.
Any questions, councillors?
Can I just, did we ever, I think we asked at the presentation to find out what Georges River, what their minimum lot size is. Is it 650?
But we're not sure whether that applies to the whole
I'm disappointed,
LGA.
and I will say that, and I have checked with a lot of people, that when we were presented this maybe 2 years ago, I did bring up the minimum lot size, and when they said 400, I said, you're kidding. That's more than my lot. Now, I was guaranteed. We were guaranteed that we would be able to stay at 700. We wouldn't have what we've got now with the disaster that is being built on all the corner lots.
May well be under the state policy, and it has a different set of controls for setbacks and the like that we can't influence.
So I'm saying, in the report you're saying
response to that by the,
Chair,
Director,
I can make
sorry.
a couple of comments. Sutherland is 600, that's their minimum lot size. Canterbury Bankstown, I believe, is 500 or 550 from memory. So there is variation across the local government areas that adjoin us. As I mentioned, this is part of a commitment under our housing strategy, and so there's two main reasons, I guess, for looking at 600. Urban design and architectural sort of modelling and analysis shows that on 600 square metres you can achieve a reasonable outcome. You can fit the parking that you need and a decent courtyard and that sort of thing in a kind of suburban context like we have in a lot of the LGA in areas like Bexley and Bardwell Park and the like. But the other reason for choosing that number is that we are obliged to deliver diversity in our housing. And even at 600, our forecast, which is shown in the report, there is still for a fairly modest number of these types of things to be built. If we make the number higher, there is a chance that, and we model that, the number that we expect to get built will go down, and that won't really assist us in terms of delivering housing choice and diversity, which is one of the objectives of our housing strategy. So this does have to be endorsed by the Department of Planning and signed off by the Minister's delegate, and so there's a possibility that they won't accept a number that's too big if it doesn't deliver the outcome that they're looking for as well. So there's some of the reasons why we settled on 600.
thank you, Councillor Barlow. Would you still like to incorporate that amendment, or it is something that can be tweaked after exhibition also? Is that,
That's correct, yeah.
I believe, so
So you can put it on exhibition and then at 650 and then change it. I don't know. I just don't like the fact that the land is getting so small that you can't even put a tree on it.
or we could keep it current as to the current recommendation and change it after the exhibition period if there is feedback that is
Yeah,
suggesting.
well, it'd be nice to know what all the adjoining LGAs have, because then you've got an argument. It's always better to go a bit higher and then negotiate it down. That's my theory anyway. You
Chair,
don't want 500.
We can provide councillors with a table of all the surrounding LGAs between now and the council meeting if that assists.
Okay, thank you. So are you happy with keeping the recommendation as it is at this stage?
At this stage, okay.
Okay,
Might come up at council.
sure.
Could I ask
Just
through the
lost
chair
it.
that
Yes.
if we are going to be provided extra details at the council meeting, if we could have modelling on the Bayside housing targets, table 1, based on the 600 figure, and also how that variation might impact on our tree canopy, seeing as though we
Yeah.
do have a very low tree canopy in Bayside, and we similarly need to address that alongside the housing targets.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. So that's something that we can receive?
Yeah, we can provide that.
Yeah, thank you. So is there any further discussion? So would the mover like to exercise her right of reply?
That was me.
Yeah.
No, I think it's a valid argument to have, and I thank Councillor Barlow for raising it.
Yes, thank you. So we'll now vote on the item. All those in favour of the committee recommendations say aye. Aye. All those against? So I declare the recommendation carried. So at this stage, we'll ask for Councillor Curry to come back into the room.
It's going to be a big argument.
So we're now on to matter CPE 22.024, City of Botany Bay, Section 94A, Development Contribution Plan 2016, Draft Amendment, Botany Aquatic Centre. There's a committee recommendation before us. Is there a mover and a seconder? Moved by Councillor Curry, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Is there any discussion? Would
The building prices go down.
would the mover like to exercise her right of reply? We'll now vote on this item. All those in favour of the recommendation say aye. Aye. All those against say against. I declare the officer's recommendation carried. Now we'll move on to item CPE 22.025, Draft Community and Verge Gardens Policy. We'll just wait for Councillor
Going on
Douglas.
exhibition anyway.
Yeah. So do I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move it, and it's to go on exhibition, so we've
Moved
got...
by Councillor Barlow, seconded by Councillor Muscat. Could we have a brief summary of this new policy?
Yes, Chair. There has been some demand for verge gardens in Bayside, and as a lot of other councils do, it's wise, therefore, for us to have some sort of guidance in place in terms of what people can and can't do in that situation. So essentially, this policy aims to do that. It basically sets out what council's expectations are for people who want to have a verge garden. It deals with safety issues and liability issues and those sorts of things, so that we can encourage people to do this if they want to, but also balance the needs of the rest of the community and safety as well. So, yeah, the proposal is that it goes out for public exhibition and then back to council for adoption.
Thank you. I noticed in regards to the verge gardens, there are some measurements mentioned. So there is a reference to 1.5 metre footpaths. Can you tell me what the standard footpath width is? Because I was out measuring mine today and it wasn't 1.5 metres.
Chair, I'd have to take that on notice, but generally over time, the standard is getting wider to deal with people with mobility issues and that sort of thing. So it's common across the LGA. You'll find a range of them. The older they are, the narrower they tend to be. But yeah, off the top of my head, I think 1.5 is the current standard. It's either 1.2 or 1.5 if there's no cycleway or anything else. Otherwise, they're wider again. But yeah.
So does that mean those gardens, those that are under 1.5 aren't able to have a verge garden?
Can you point me to where you're referring to? In the
That
policy?
was on page 13 in the verge garden section.
And I meant to measure my footpath, and I know it's not 1.5. I think it'd only be a metre. There wouldn't be any as a 1.5. Modern footpath, not old ones.
So I guess my point is it's not reflecting all the different sizes of verges in the LGA, so it's in reference to that new standard. So do you think that we need to incorporate that range of footpath sizes, widths and verge widths to please everyone?
Chair, I think it's not as clear as it could be, so I think we can have a look at that and maybe give you some further advice between now and the council meeting.
Thank you. And I did also notice that you could only install raised planters if you had a 2 metre width verge or planting area, but I potentially believe that you could actually fit some compact raised beds in a narrower space, so maybe you could relook at that to reflect all the different sizes. So are there any further questions?
I think I'll have to go back, but there was contradictory comments about can't have a raised garden bed, then you can have one. So they contradicted each other. So, but I actually haven't got it here, so I'll write it down for when it comes to council. It was going on exhibition, so we've got that chance to refine it. So.
Are there any further questions from councillors? So would the mover like to exercise her right of reply?
No, I'm right.
Okay, we will now vote on this item. All those in favour of the officer recommendation, say aye. Aye. All those against, I declare the officer recommendation carried. Now we're on to, we'll just wait for Councillor Douglas to re-enter. So now that Councillor Douglas has re-entered, we're on to CPE 22.026, Clause 4.6, Variations to Development Standards Quarterly Report. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll move it.
Councillor Barlow, seconded by Councillor Muscat. Can I just ask for a brief overview of this report? Thank you.
Chair, this report is a requirement of the Department of Planning for Council to look at on a quarterly basis. Essentially, it's just to provide transparency over development applications where development standards like height and floor space ratio have been varied. And so the purpose of this report, you'll see it coming up every quarter, is just to put on the public record the applications where that flexibility has been applied and the reasons why, so that anybody interested can see the reasons for it. So the table attached is the applications over the last 3 months where a variation has been granted, and it shows you the amount and who was the authority who gave the approval. So you'll see in a lot of instances it was a local planning panel. So it's just meeting a statutory requirement and to provide transparency.
Thank you. Are there any questions, councillors? Councillor Muscat?
Through you, Chair. I was just looking at the first one there on Botany Road. Is that an application for all residences in that address grouping to be combined, or are they all separate? Just looking at for heritage perspective.
Chair, I'll have to take that on notice. I'm not familiar with all the details of that application, but I can certainly come back to you on that.
Thank you.
Just a question, is this information ever graphed from quarter to quarter so we can track how many changes there are, whether they're increasing or decreasing?
Chair, we don't compile information in that way. It is used by some of the team that we have here tonight when we're looking at our planning controls, and if there's a trend that a particular control is being varied frequently, we can have a look and try and understand the reasons why, and if it needs to be changed in some way. So we don't track them in the way that you outlined, but we do look at the information over time to see if we can identify trends.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
Through the chair, have there been any complaints or residents' queries about any of these properties?
Through you, Chair, not in relation to this particular report. The individual applications all would have been neighbour notified, and some of them would have attracted objections, and they may well have related to these non-compliances with those matters. In the case of the ones that went to the planning panel, the residents also have the opportunity to attend and speak if they want to. So their concerns certainly would have been heard as part of the process.
Thank you. So if there's no further questions,
Just a question.
Councillor Barlow.
What variations are the council officer allowed to approve before it goes to the panel? I know there's a percentage, so what was the percentage?
Yep, through your Chair, it's 10%. Anything
10%? I thought it
over
was.
10% has to go to the local planning
Okay.
panel.
Thank you. So any further
No.
discussions? So we'll now vote on this item. All those in favour of the officer recommendation say aye. Aye. All those against? I declare the officer recommendation carried. So there being no further items, I declare the meeting closed at 7:15 p.m.
Welcome, councillors, members of the public and staff. I declare the meeting of the City Works and Asset Committee open at 7:24 p.m. Everyone at the meeting is reminded to conduct themselves in a polite and professional manner, keep communication factual, use appropriate language and tone. Don't use any defamatory or derogatory remarks. Defamation laws do apply, including in addresses in the public forum. I also ask councillors to observe the requirements under the Code of Meeting Practice and Meeting Etiquette. I remind all present that the video recording is an official record of the Council and may be made available to persons upon request in accordance with the Government Information Public Access Act 2009. No other recordings are permitted. I'd like to begin by acknowledging country. Bayside Council acknowledges the traditional custodians of our land, the Gadigal and Bidjigal people of the Eora Nation, and pays respect to their elders past, present and emerging. The people of the Eora Nation, their spirits and ancestors will always remain with our waterways and the land, our Mother Earth. Do we have any apologies? Councillor Tsounis.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Apology.
who's missing?
Right.
Councillor Sooners.
Councillor Souness. Do I have a mover and a seconder? I move Councillor Jansen, second Councillor Fardell. All those in favour, all those against. I declare that carried. I don't think we have any councillors wishing to participate by audio visual link. Do we have any disclosures of interest?
I think I do, in terms of the accepting the minutes of the last meeting, because I have potentially, although this hasn't been confirmed, have a significant pecuniary interest, conflict of interest because of the CWA 22.016, the Tender Barn Park Precinct project, because I live in the surrounding area.
It's you don't have to declare a conflict to accept minutes.
Okay, good.
Nothing else? All right. No to conflicts of interest. Minutes of the previous meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder? I move Councillor Jansen, seconder Councillor Curry. All those in favour, all those against. Declare that carried. I don't think we need to deal with items by exception. There's no public forum tonight, so moving on to reports. Beginning with item CWA 22.020, notice of motion Lena Street Sandingham parking permit petition. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Moved Councillor Fardell, seconded Councillor Jansen. We hear perhaps from the officers regarding this.
Yes, Chair. This matter is slightly confusing, so I'll try and clarify if I can. The proposal here in relation to the no stopping signs was considered by Traffic Committee and put out for consultation, and the outcome of that was that the majority of residents weren't in favour of changing the signs, and so there was no further action taken. The petition referred to in this report actually came in after the end of that process. It was received or submitted late, so essentially the matter that is raised in the petition has already been considered by Traffic Committee, and the decision was made not to proceed with it because the majority of residents weren't in favour of it. So again, the recommendation of this report is that it's received and noted rather than reconsidered because it's already been through that process.
Yeah, I mean, look, I do have an issue with this process. I'm sure you're not surprised that it took a notice of motion to council to direct it to be reconsidered, and the response seems to be, no, we're not going to do that. I mean, a motion of council, from my understanding, is direction. It's not a suggestion. So, I mean, I'm not particularly happy with this, I've got to say. Does anyone else have any discussion? Because I would like to amend this. I mean, I don't think it's really dealt with the issues raised. I mean, just because we held a community consultation that I assume had a low response rate, the residents did come in late, but they've expressed themselves to council, not through our mandated community consultation, but through a petition. I don't think we should disregard, just ignore that. Would people be happy to amend this to put this back out for community consultation, given the fact that there is, I do know this petition had most of the residents of the street on it, so I assume they didn't respond to the community consultation, but did respond when, people actually saw what council had decided to do. Would people be happy with that? So maybe amend the motion, not, just reword the motion with the consent of the mover and the seconder. the council conduct further community consultation on the proposed changes and report back to the committee. Yeah. Any further discussion?
If the information's there, Well, just that graph there, it's just saying this is what you can have.
And I'm sure.
The other thing, the question was brought up somewhere, how does our new LPR cameras know that they've got a permit on their car? They don't.
I'd be
Through your chair,
interested
What
in hearing
about
the
a
response to that.
disabled
Yeah,
car thing?
the registration numbers that are nominated for the permit are entered into the system that the cameras use, and so the
Okay.
cameras know that those cars are not illegally parked.
Excellent work to the staff.
Okay.
It's a great initiative. But yes, and sorry, thank you for responding to the rest of the notice of motion. Is there any further discussion? No? All those in favour, all those against? Declare that carried. Item CWA 22.021, the Patanki Court.
No, I'll move it.
Tongue, sorry. We've already
That's right,
lost
we have
track
lots
of
of names.
all the vocabulary. The bowling
move it.
green.
I'll move
Moved
it.
Councillor Barlow, seconded Councillor Jansen. Any discussion?
Just, could just, with the report, it's, 78,000 or whatever, but could it be separated a little bit so that possibly we might be able to look at, and also we might look at the other ones that are built at Ramwick to see exactly if they're the same style or whatever. So, anyway, thank you.
We can provide that.
Yeah.
Project costing, so that
Yeah,
you can have a
I think it would be good because everyone's just seen one figure and gone.
Yes.
So, okay, thanks.
That would be covered through the grant though, so that full amount would be covered through the
If we're
Crown.
successful in the grant.
Yeah,
we've-
so it's-
We've applied for all of
Yeah.
it in the grant.
Yeah, so it's at no cost to ratepayers.
Yeah, but it's just something that we can separate it just so they know. And also find out how much they cost at Ramwick.
Is that a single petanque?
Single court with associated landscaping, paths going to it, so there are a number of other things.
Do we have any idea? Because I assume it's like they're sort of quite compact, right? They're just like a single bowling lane.
It's
No,
3
it's
metres.
more like I think it's more like a half basketball court.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more than one width. It's 3 metres.
8 metres by something.
Yeah, I can't remember now.
All right. Very good. Any further discussion?
It's more than one lane anyway.
All right. All those in favour? All those
Aye.
against? Declare that carried. With that, we are at the end of the City Works and Asset Committee meeting. I declare the meeting closed at 7:33 p.m. Good night.
Hardly worth your welcome.
I reckon we